Zach
Okay.
Prusak currently works for Tall Timbers Research Station as a wildland fire training specialist. One of the founding members of the council. Woo!
Hmm.
Zach has 33 years of fire experience working for Brevard County, the Florida Park Service, and the Nature Conservancy prior to Tall Timbers. He is committed to supporting fire collaborations that address the needs of the fire community. Thank you very much for being here, Zach. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Sammy. And yes, I am old. Yeah, back when we started the Central Florida Prescribed Fire Council, I think Orange County was Mosquito County. That's how old I am. But it is a pleasure to be here. And again, much thanks for the text I'm getting. Skinny Santa, I'll take that. So it has been a stressful time, as we all know, but the past year and a half, 2 years, time doesn't mean anything anymore. But I have come away with the idea that we did have an opportunity to reevaluate really what works in fire training, what could be improved in fire training and mentoring, and ultimately come away with a stronger fire community. So in my sort of attitude about this past year and a half, 2 years, is that we have really taken a bad time and actually come up with something that is really better. So to respectfully paraphrase Gabriel Garcia Marquez, let's talk about fire training in the time of COVID. So you will hear lots of terms if you get involved in fire training in this new world. And so we'll go through a few terms and you'll hear asynchronous learning. And this consists of on-demand and self-paced learning, uses such tools as videos, documents, quizzes, discussion boards. And this does not mean that students are not interacting with each other or the instructor, but this implies that they are not interacting simultaneously. And then you've heard this term synchronous learning. So this is students that are engaging in learning together simultaneously. So in the old days, this meant traditional classroom, face-to-face learning, but with the advent of other tools like Zoom, discussion boards, stuff like that, you can now have synchronous learning integrated within an LMS. An LMS, what's that? Glad you asked. So learning management system. This is really a software application that contains a huge variety of tools for administration, documentation, tracking delivery of educational courses and training programs that are all developed, delivered, and taught in one space. And this system, this application supports both asynchronous and synchronous learning. So examples that you may have heard of, Canvas, a lot of universities use that, Moodle, which is in the Wildland Fire Learning Portal, Blackboard. There's literally hundreds upon hundreds of these learning management systems. And then the term flipped classroom. So the flipped classroom is a training model and type of blended learning in which asynchronous content is delivered, often online, before the synchronous training. So this allows for enhanced discussion and more engagement when students and cadre interact in real time. So it's getting materials ahead of time before you actually meet in person. And one more page, and again, you'll hear these two terms, virtual, online, and truthfully, you can use them interchangeably when referring to training or learning that occurs within an LMS or similar platform. And then what I'll cover today, hybrid course or hybrid training. And I like this term a lot because some of the others kind of blend. And so a portion of the course occurs virtually within an LMS, and then a portion occurs in person. So it could be in a classroom or a field day. So with what happened the past couple of years, really screwing up training, there is a challenge. We need increased fire training and mentoring in the coming decades, both from a control burning and firefighting standpoint. This quote from Stephen Pine, you've seen it. The term pyrocene is what he likes to coin where we are today. And he says it's not a pretty sight. We need to relearn how to coexist with it because it isn't going away. So fire, we know, is not going away, both from an ecological standpoint, the need for that, and just from the world we are in now. And so there were a couple surveys that were sent out in the Northeast and Southeast United States, conducted by the Northeast and Southeast Regional Cohesive Strategy Committees of the Cohesive Wildland Fire Management Strategy and the Southeast Regional Partnership for planning and sustainability. So over 1,000 participants in these two surveys focused on, some of it was focused on, what do you need from the standpoint of fire training? What are your needs? What are your issues? What are your challenges? And it was just a great survey, and there were a lot of commonalities between the Northeast and Southeast. And I suspect that if you did this out west, you'd have the same replies, and maybe even globally. So, difficulty accessing training, insufficient capacity of instructors. There's just not enough people to go around to teach. The training coordination often falls short. And even, you would think, even in this day and age when we have so many websites to go to, someone keeps sending you stuff via MailChimp, whoever that might be. It's still, we don't have a really good handle on what's offered when, by who, and how you can get access to it. There is an interest in more collaboration. And those of you that have been with the Fire Council for a long time, or even the new folks in the Fire Councils have spread like, I don't know, spread like something. And the Fire Councils have, I fully believe this, have really made collaboration sort of the go-to, that of course you would do it. So there's an interest in even more. So basically training across agency boundaries. And then this, highlighted in obnoxious green, there is a lack of virtual components that would help reduce travel and course delivery costs. One thing, when I was with the Nature Conservancy, when we didn't do traveling for fire training, certainly the Nature Conservancy as an organization recognized how much money it was saving from not sending people all the time to training. And I think a lot of agencies would think the same thing. And so there is an interest in more virtual components. I'll go over a couple of examples of trainings that I led the past year. And the S-130, S-190, L-180 Basic Wildland Firefighting Suite of courses. I conducted this in a hybrid manner. So basically, this is the new 2020 NWCG course. And so all of the units and all of the testing material, quizzes, knowledge checks, everything that was designed for in-person delivery, I converted all of that into basically, videos and everything within one learning management system. We had 50 students, all from Florida. There was a mix of private, county, and state. Excuse me. And also, I want to cover real briefly an S-131 Firefighter Type 1 course that I led that was all virtual. So same thing, all of the units, all the material, PowerPoints, testing material, all converted within an LMS. In this one, we had 40 students from 9 states, as far away as Oregon, Wyoming, and representing 21 different organizations, which was really great because we had this fantastic mix of discussions from people from different places. So to deliver these, I partnered with University of Florida Natural Areas Training Academy. We utilized Canvas as the learning management system and Zoom for the meetings. So this was a great help because I was able to partner with an entity that was perfectly comfortable and understands and knows how to use an LMS. So for the 130, 190, L180, we gave the students 3 weeks to complete 33 hours of online work. So it's a challenge to actually convert all this material into this format that you track the students and make sure that you didn't give them 100 hours of work, or 20 hours, but it's all very doable within that system. So it's about 10 hours a week. So it's you definitely don't want to fall behind. The field day component of S130, we utilized partner sites. So from the Nature Conservancy, Apalachicola Bluffs and Ravines Preserve, Disney Wilderness Preserve, Ordway Swisher Biological Station, and UCF as a part of the Fire Council. And so we basically broke those field days up into 10 students each. Ordway did 2 field days. The staff it takes to do that, so 2 from NATA and myself, and then the field day instructors, it was anywhere from 6 to 12 people. And it worked out incredibly well. For 131, we gave the students 2 weeks to complete the 9 hours of online work. And then for the staff, 2 from NATA, myself, And then for the scenario, the sand table exercise, we did that via Zoom. And so we had 4 instructors, each one had their own scenario, and we cycled the students through each scenario. And that worked out really well, actually. Excuse me again. And so, if you've never seen what basically is Canvas or an online class, you as a student, this is what you would see. So you would have the welcome to basic wildland firefighter, each unit. I broke all of that up into, a basic overview of what you will learn. In this case, that's 190, Unit 3, all the objectives, and every single component of that page or multiple pages was designed to assess if you as a student have reached any of these objectives. So when we do this in person, a lot of this is one-on-one, and you're talking to students, you give them quizzes, lots of things. Within the LMS, there are more opportunities and options to create various assessment tools to make sure that the students are learning. And of course, the field day, you can't, of course, this is fire. And so you cannot replace in-person mentoring and instruction. And so we had our field days, which worked really well, thanks to the partners. And it made it another point that I kind of got from all of this was that in the field days, you really utilize the strengths of the instructors that are more comfortable being outside, actually conducting a fire, working with students. Then there are instructors that are really comfortable with the online platforms, and it's different skill sets. For the scenarios for S131, this is what that looked like. And so basically during a Zoom meeting format, we had the lead instructors run the students through the scenarios. Of course, the bottom right is an actual sand table, what we're trying to replicate. And it's not as perfect as, of course, everyone standing around the sand table, but this is where getting the scenario leads that are really good at this. And so we had folks from TNC, from the Park Service, from Ordway, Alachua County, and even more, who understood what they were trying to do, what really the goals to assess the students. And so again, not as maybe perfect as the classic sand table, but this worked out actually, I was surprised, better than I thought. So are there challenges to this kind of hybrid and virtual training? Sure. Finding people who can develop and teach an online course. Those are skills that I certainly, didn't think I had when I first started doing this. But I learned a lot from folks who taught me how to think about what I'm doing, what I typically do when I stand up and talk to people. There's a way to convert that into online. It's difficult. So that is a challenge. And there's a learning curve for students who have never taken an online course. I am old, as Sammy reminded you, and I have never taken an online course. And so there is a learning curve, but a lot of what you go through within these LMSs, they do make it very intuitive for new students. And you do need some form of learning management system. It's within the Wildland Fire Learning Portal. If you have your own LMS or you utilize a partner, you do need some form of that. And then sending students physical materials, it's a challenge. So much of this is online. The IRPG is a link. Everything's a link. I still think that you should have something physical. With the help of NADA, we actually sent students physical IRPGs in the mail before the class started. We got their address. So that is a challenge. And of course, internet access may be limited, and you do need a computer or a smartphone, something like that. So that's always a challenge. But the pros, there is a lot of positives. Increased accessibility for a lot more students. I was amazed when we taught these in person. We always fill up, and I think, oh yeah, we're getting all the students that want it. But it turns out that we had comments from students when they were taking these courses, and they said, yeah, I wanted to take these and I just couldn't go. It cost too much. The travel, I can't do it. And so we broadened our student base by having this access for all, and flexible at your own pace time. A lot of folks, work many jobs, and so they can't spare a week. And so to actually fit this in at your own schedule worked. And it is less expensive overall. And we have a more diverse instructor pool. So all of those units and all of those things that I had recorded, we can take those like Legos, pop them out, put new ones in with another instructor from a different agency, different gender, different race, different, the sky's the limit at who you can bring in to actually help teach. And you don't have to travel to one place. You can basically record where you are. There is less on-site logistics and an increase in student diversity as well, both from agencies and locations. So there are some cons. Some students still prefer face-to-face training. Um, Inexperienced students may be intimidated by the platform, but I have found that typically there's a little curve and then they're okay. And I've been asked this a lot. Are they paying attention? Do you know if they're, going through the material? Do you know? And within the LMS, there are methods and tools to help you um, basically assess that. But I gotta say, even when we taught this in person, there's always students that, I've had students with their head on a desk, in person in a classroom. And so, hey there, you should pay attention. So I think that it is a con, it is a challenge, but but by developing the course in a certain way, you can address that up front. There are a lot of lessons learned. We can increase the amount of synchronous office hours because we did note that students really still want that face-to-face time with instructors. So the first couple times we did these classes, we didn't have a lot of office hours, and then we increased that. So basically, having yourself or any other instructor available for the students' questions, that was a good lesson learned. And then we really be sure to craft your testing methods to the learning objectives. It's one of the benefits of taking all of that material that we would teach in person is it really forced us to look at it under a microscope and really get into detail. All right, what am I trying to teach here and how is it to be, assessed? And so you do get into a groove doing the stuff in person. You do get into this rhythm of, yep, same thing, same thing, same thing. So it was kind of, it was a really neat thing to actually look at it and go, okay, what am I really teaching? What do I want the student to get out of this course? So the future of hybrid fire training, every one of the benefits of working with NATA was that they did post course surveys and they asked the students questions. And every single course we taught, there was a greater percentage of students post course who wanted to take a similar course or a course in that similar fashion. There were students that said, yeah, I really want to go back to face, but every time we taught it, every time there was a higher percentage of students that wanted to do it in similar ways, even when COVID restrictions are relaxed. And they were all positive. Of course, there were things like any other course, if you do face to face, that to do better. There is a wide range of possibilities with this method. You could integrate hybrid training with fire councils, prescribed burn associations, for like sites for field days, bringing together different instructors, mentors. And I'll say that mentor word time and time again. Those of us that have been doing fire a while understand the value of being mentored, and I think we can utilize this method to bring people to students. High tech. So, there is this attraction to high tech. There are, many of there are these high tech sand tables. There are programs, one called Articulate, one called H5P, that basically take what you recorded and they insert quizzes and all kinds of things to make what you're watching and viewing interactive so that you can't go beyond a certain point until you've answered a question. There's a lot of high tech. What I've learned from this is that's great. I mean, one day we'll all wear Oculus goggles and probably be immersed in a fire, in which that's would be very cool. But I double down on the idea that you still have to have really good instructors, people that know fire, that have done this, that can mentor and really, teach the students. So high tech's attractive, but it doesn't replace a really good instructor, both in the field and online. I think there's a global reach with this. I've already been contacted from folks overseas in different countries about, well, hey, maybe we can work together and all of this material can be translated into a wide variety of languages and utilizing sites and field days, everywhere, Spain, Australia, Africa, South America, anywhere. And you can still have students work together. And so we could increase the diversity of what we teach. The partnering with universities has been great. I, was teaching this stuff in person with the University of Florida for a long time, back when Alan Long was there, and that's who really got us started with University of Florida. And those of you who remember Sharon Gamble, another founding member of the council, her and I would talk about the extension, playing a much bigger role in perhaps forming some sort of master burner course. We have master naturalists and master gardeners, but imagine taking a certified prescribed burn manager who has taken the state course, and maybe you say, there's more to learn, maybe more on smoke modeling, more on history of fire, anything you could think of. So with this method, you could work with universities to deliver a much just much more material, because we do have a lot of folks that ask questions about what else can I learn, and we have an opportunity using this method to do that. And there could be a virtual hub of more streamlined fire training, accessibility, increased capacity to meet the needs of the future. So by having training that is located in central places online, we can reach more people. We can increase the amount of people that are being trained as well. There's an opportunity. We don't know how much money could come from the current Biden administration to fire. There's always, every single administration, there's always a push for more fire funding. And so maybe there's a way to, perhaps get more funding to this as well. And then I have in my head this idea of a training app that actually links us all together. I joked earlier about my MailChimp list, and thank you for those of you who send me good notes on that. We have so many ways to list trainings and jobs and opportunities, and yet it doesn't flow. We still text each other on lists. So I have this crazy idea that maybe we can get an app, because everyone has a phone, that will link us together, that will provide people with what they need. If they are looking for certain kinds of training, you get sent those opportunities. If you want to be mentored, if you want to help people, there's ways we can link each other together. So it's just, all I need is 150 grand. So if you have that laying around, just let me know. And then what's also very cool is that collaborations are springing up that did not exist previously. Those of you who know me know that that's really what I dig. This idea that we can link people together that never worked together before and make all of this stuff that much better. And so I'm working with folks out of the Ember Alliance and Idaho, Heather Heward, other folks, Jen Foss. There's so many people that are into what we all want, but we really didn't work together on this level before, because now we have to. And so I really think that's a very positive aspect of all of this. And Sammy, that's all I've got. So thank you very much for your time, and keep the good fires burning, as they say.
Thank you, Zach. This is Ben. I'm sorry, changing up you. So I'm going to be fielding questions. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of questions. So I'll reiterate, even while the speaker's talking, you can go ahead and start typing your questions into the Q&A box. That way you remember them. You don't have to wait till the end of the talk. And that way also people can start sorting them and kind of filtering through, uploading them, so that we know which ones to ask. So while people are doing that, I'm going to go ahead and ask you a couple of questions of my own. Well, and so you already mentioned feedback has been good from attendees. I mean, obviously some people are always going to want the in-person attention, and especially if you kind of came up with that, I guess it's kind of hard to kind of retrain that. But you said that people are getting kind of used to it and then appreciate it after the fact.
Yeah, and Ben, real quick, I mean, the beauty of this is that we can take portions of this. So say, for example, you want to do 130, 190, L180. Okay, let's just do 190. Let's just do that component via the hybrid LMS. And then let's just meet in person for a couple days for 130. And so, or you can do everything in person. That's kind of the beauty of this, is that once constructed and developed, you can shift back and forth between each one, whatever you want to do. And so it's almost like a menu of training that you, based on what demands, needs, we're all remote. Let's all meet and do everything in person. Cool. Oh, we have to do this because we are traveling somewhere, together. And yeah, so if people are comfortable with the online method, then I think this presents us with more options. So it isn't an either or. Basically it's everything.
Oh, okay. And so our first question is, how do you envision the training app working?
Well, first I need funding. So if anyone has Mackenzie Scott's phone number, so I envision it almost like a combination of a job app, and we all have seen those, Glassdoor, and even LinkedIn. There's a bunch of those, but you combine that with, and this is going to sound corny, with a dating app, and then you combine that with some sort of map app that you basically can connect people with what they want. You'd have to have input from all of the folks doing training, updated trainings and lists, who can apply, who can't, but that's all very doable stuff. So, as typical with me, it's a lot's in my head. I haven't, but I have talked to some developers, and they said, "Oh yeah, that's it's all very doable."
Okay. For some reason, I'm seeing my face frozen on the screen. I hope everybody's not seeing that. The next question. So Kaylon Taylor says that they are Sharon Gamble's replacement, even though no one could ever replace her. I have had many discussions about the Master Burner program and would love to make this program happen. So have you talked with University of Florida and the Extension Services about kind of adding that element?
Yeah, so Shelley Johnson, who now is in charge of NADA, her and I have talked about this, and yes, so we've talked, and there are rough outlines of what that would look like. University of Florida also is looking to form some sort of fire certificate program that might be in the future. But yes, we've have some beginning talks, and yes.
Okay. And then Karen Brown, what type of questions came up in the office hours and how often were those sessions made available?
Yeah, great question, Karen. How you doing? The first time we did this, we only had one office hour for 3 weeks, which was ridiculous. So then we increased that to 2 hours every week, and with different instructors. And a lot of the questions that the students had were more in-depth detail on S190 elements. There's always confusions about cold fronts and weather and fine fuels, because for a lot of students, that's the first time they've even seen any kind of any kind of meteorology, and so that we got a lot of those questions. And then as you all know, a lot of questions about, hey, what is a red card? Hey, how do I do this? So we had some questions just basically about the process of training. What is it? And what's the end goal for this? But every office hour we had students in it.
Okay. Dean is asking, could simulation of RX fire scenarios be used as part of the virtual training?
Yeah, and one of the cool things about, and I had spoken to a lot of NWCG instructors back in June and July of 2020 when all this really was hit. And so trying to really get a feel from them, what is acceptable, what is sort of allowed in this massaging of the course content. And as long as you hit objectives, and as long as you assess the students are learning what the objectives are of each unit and the course, there's a lot of flexibility of putting new material in to make that point. It's just difficult to do. It's which is why here's your slide deck, and here's your stuff, and go teach. So yeah, I'm a big fan of improving a lot on that material. It's a challenge to do, but sure, you could throw in some. I mean, it's what's going to happen. We're going to be able to look into a lot of fire behavior from past fires. People are doing that right now, modeling what happened, which is great. We're going to be able to look into how that could be a part of how you conduct how you're going to write a burn prescription. You could visualize, okay, well, here's what I have in my prescription. Here's the parameters. What will this look like? So For sure. I think it's also easy though to be overwhelmed by that and go, we're just going to throw tons of material at you. You still have to have it in a way that's organized and pointed to the objectives.
Okay. And you mentioned mentors. Is there a mentor program out there? I know we've kind of talked about that within the Fire Council Steering Committee about trying to create some kind of program. Because I know I work for a small agency. I'm the only certified burner. I don't really have anybody else to ask questions to and, to really reach out to. So I think that would be a great program, especially if you're a private individual or you work for a small agency. So can you speak to that a little bit?
Oh my gosh, yeah, you just basically everything you just said, Ben. We need this. I was mentored in my days at Wakawa Springs by Rosie Mulholland, Walt Thompson, Jim Murray, and a lot of people way back when. And I didn't realize it at the time, but I was being mentored. And I think that it happens organically, but I think the fire councils and the prescribed burn associations would be the natural places to have some sort of mentor program. The more structure you put to things, then it gets difficult to do. But I think it's so important because yes, I'm going to take this class and I'm going to pass this class and it's great. But that doesn't mean anything unless you are working with someone to help you, because you need to screw up and you need to screw up with a mentor, who will help you through all this stuff. So having, I don't know, Ben, I would think that the prescribed, the councils and PBAs would be natural houses for some sort of mentor program. Maybe universities, but we need to find some way to do it, because I think it's an integral part of how you become a safe burner.
Definitely. And I should say, Alan Allshouse, who was actually one of our contractors, really was a mentor for me. And I did my checkout burn under him, which is amazing because, essentially he's giving business away. But I think because he understood the importance of it, he was able to do that. And then even like Chris Matson I talked to, or other people in the Park Service who are in my area, not necessarily in my agency, but I know to reach out to. But yeah, it would be really great if we had a more formalized structure, maybe within the Fire Council, where we could hook people like that up. You say, hey, I'm new to burning. I'm looking to, who can I call just to ask some questions, bounce some ideas off of, and especially if there's no infrastructure within your agency established to kind of help, work, negotiate those issues. So yeah, that would be
Oh, for
wonderful.
sure. Oh, for sure.
Really
And Ben Allen was a great mustache mentor too for so many people. So
So we have one more question from John Johnson. Are there any plans to offer higher level courses through these models, such as S290? And there was a recent one that was canceled or delayed.
yeah, so Heather Heward with University of Idaho, Jeremy Bailey with the Nature Conservancy. There's been folks working on producing versions of RX 410, which is the smoke class, the 310, RX 310, which is the fire ecology course. Heather Heward's done that a great job, which is available through the Wildland Fire Learning Portal and University of Idaho, and the 301, 341 suite of classes, which are very important to that pathway to the RXB2 position. So yes, the higher level courses have been tackled, and there really isn't anything that you couldn't convert or modify or transform to this platform. Chainsaw class 212, you unless you're you have to go out and cut down trees. You can't go into Minecraft and do that. But even some of that material you could probably tweak a little bit too. But so yes, a short answer is, and the NWCG actually is looking at every single one of their courses and trying to retool some of it for this purpose.
Okay, thank you so much, Zach. That was an excellent presentation. So we're out of time, so I'm going to turn it back over to Sammy for our next presentation.
Thanks, everybody.